Caitlin Clark.
Caitlin Clark.
Caitlin Clark.
Caitlin Clark.
Caitlin Clark.
The one thing that I love that she's bringing to her sport, more people want to watch. More people want to tune in. I saw for the first time that they had a chartered plane for the first time in their league history. You know, they flew private. That should be celebrated in its own right. For anyone that's, in sports that's flown commercial or flown, charter, that should be celebrated. And it's because of Caitlin Clark. Don't get it twisted. Don't get it fucked up. Caitlin Clark is the reason why a lot of great things is going to happen for the WNBA.
Caitlin Clark's narrative is the type of transforming, a sports tale that is rarely. From an early age, she demonstrated basketball brilliance of the kind that a lot of athletes dedicate their whole careers to, attempting to grow. But it wasn't only her extraordinary talent which made her. Notably, it was her indisputable talent to engender optimism among a league that has years had been approaching. Caitlin Clark's breakdown became the name on the lips of everyone in the world of basketball for women, and with good cause. Because of her abilities on the court, she was one of the most thrilling athletes in the last. Recall her deep shooting leadership, range, and heightened spirit of competition. Not only her squad, but the WNBA as a whole in. Clark was more than just a celebrity. She was a occurrence that bore the burden of the league as a whole. For her exit from the WNBA now raises questions about their prospects as the league battles to recuperate from the monetary and cultural emptiness she abandoned for a league that have previously had difficulty gaining acknowledgement and long-term financial viability. When Caitlin Clark arrived, it was similar to she brought fresh eyes after winning the lotto, increased ticket sales for the game, and caused television ratings to go through the roof. Just a few months, the WNBA appeared to be on the verge of a golden age, yet all came crashing down with that momentum when Clark decided to. The question still remains, does the WNBA continue to exist without her? Or is the league will eventually revert to unnecessary to comprehend the monumental Caitlin Clark's influence on the WNBA? Must examine more closely where the league was waiting for her to arrive. The WNBA's path has not been easy. Since the league's founding, when it was initially introduced in 1996, it featured the complete support of the NBA, which supplied the first marketing and financial assistance required in order to lift it off the ground. The early years of the league were characterized by promise, with well-known celebrities like Lisa, Cynthia Cooper, and Leslie Sherrill swoop down, captivating people. Although the first thrill around the WNBA quickly decreased as viewership decreased and the league found it difficult to keep a steady following. By the middle of in the 2000s, the WNBA was continuously losing money and having teams who can't fill arenas or attract notable sponsorship agreements with the league's dependency. NBA subsidies become increasingly noticeable, and in spite of the skill displayed, it appeared that the WNBA would always be a sports league forever, second tier, eclipsed by basketball for guys. One of the WNBA's biggest obstacles were media attention in the sports industry. The NFL, NBA, MLB, and NHL are in charge. Women's basketball was given little focus from popular sports networks. The absence of coverage alone made the league's financial situation worse. Struggles since there were less spectators, which meant chances for sponsorships and collaborations with the NBA's media. For instance, ESPN was much more profitable than the NBA's television rights, adding even more to the financial disparity between the two leagues. Throughout the 2010s, when athletes such as Maya Moore, Breanna Stewart, and Brittany Griner enhanced the game with their amazing performances, that the WNBA continues to fail to become widely accepted. Attendance statistics for sports audiences, centered at roughly 7,000 on average per game, is better than it was in years past, but significantly less than what was required to make the league profitable. Sales of products were poor, and despite the sporadic media explosion, All during the WNBA finals, the league had trouble staying constant. Significance of the league's inadequate funding additionally appeared in the form of logistical difficulties that NBA players faced while traveling, flew in private aircraft, and slept in upscale hotels. A lot of WNBA teams had to take commercial flights, occasionally encountering delays that would cause players to show up within hours. Prior to the start of the game, these variations in financing and treatment produced a stark additional disparity between the two leagues, highlighting the disparity between males. In professional basketball for women, the league's financial difficulties were not limited to the organizational level. They also had an impact on the players. The WNBA's salary cap has been infamously low compared to the typical player, earning about $75,000 annually in contrast to the millions that even benches have earned. NBA players, which compelled many WNBA celebrities to perform abroad during the off-season to augment their earnings, frequently running the risk of fatigue and damage in the process. Participants such as Diana Taurasi famously missed all of the WNBA seasons, so they were making more money. Caitlin, playing in Turkey or Russia. When Clark arrived, a new era began for the everything changed in the WNBA when Caitlin Clark arrived on the scene. Away from the collegiate basketball game, where she was, Clark was already projected to be a phenomenon, to create a stir at the workplace. Despite what she accomplished in her brief WNBA, vastly outstripped even the above any hopes she exceeded. She was more than just a player, she was a movement. There was no denying his court prowess, but what distinguished Clark was her capacity to garner a fan base among the fervent. Enthusiasm for her first season was not at all like anything the WNBA has before observed, that admirers gathered to watch her perform both in the arenas of rival clubs and Indiana, excited to see her make a deep three-point shots and pivotal plays. That Clark's arrival signaled the start of a cultural change among WNBA supporters who had previously shown no concern for women's basketball. Started paying attention to observe her matches, and the press coverage of the WNBA grew in ways that weren't before seen for years. Yet all of a sudden it wasn't. It is rare to see WNBA highlights, games that are broadcast on major sports networks and social networking sites. Clark's performances frequently went viral, and her name came to represent the effect of women's basketball on Indiana's ticket sales were astounding. Fever, a group that had previously battled to fill their arena and turned into the most sought-after ticket in town for the initial. At one point in the franchise's existence, they sold out events frequently, in fact that other WNBA teams have a same spike in attendance when Clark had a fever when it arrived in town, turn into a traveling show that draws supporters from throughout the nation to saw her perform. Her impact wasn't restricted to just gamegoers. Sales of products increased dramatically, especially those that showcase Clark's jerseys with her name and image on them. Numbers sold out faster than expected, and online retailers found it difficult to compete with. The need for a league with a lengthy failed to produce meaningful. Clark's revenue from merchandise popularity was a business game changer. Sponsors got on the Caitlin race right away. Major brands like Nike have joined the Clark bandwagon. Gatorade and Adidas inked agreements with her desire to connect with. This is women's basketball's new face. Inflow of sponsorship funds was advantageous. Not only Clark, but the whole WNBA. New collaborations were established, and current sponsors raised their investments that result in a financial explosion. For the league's first appearance in the WNBA had strong financial results for years. And Caitlin Clark was responsible for it. The influence of the media bringing the arrival of WNBA to prime time. Clark did more than increase ticket sales and revenue from items. It also had a significant effect on the media of the WNBA. Presence in the professional world. Ratings for sports television are crucial. ABC and ESPN, among other networks, had long broadcast WNBA games, although the audience numbers were frequently poor. A mediocre WNBA game has trouble drawing over a few hundred spectators, as well as the marquee events held by the league, such as the finals or the All-Star game, hardly enrolled in the larger sports landscape. Everything changed with Caitlin Clark's first appearance in the game, regularly attract a wider audience, with a few matches earning more than 1 million viewers, an unprecedented number for typical WNBA game season. Networks started to acknowledge that Clark was not merely she was a fantastic basketball player. WNBA games are a ratings magnet, featuring the Indiana Fever and Clark were transferred to major networks' prime time slots. Networks providing the league with previously unheard of exposure. This press coverage didn't simply increase viewership for each games, it increased awareness of the whole league. Sports discussion shows that had previously paid scant heed to. The WNBA started to report on Clark's highlights and talks about her influence on the league.
And shoot the blood out of the ball. You know what I mean? And then just how aggressive she is, and not just scoring in basketball, getting her teammates involved as well. I think she's so great for the game. You know what I mean? It was a pleasure watching her, and I just think down the road, she's going to only get better.
Social media sites went viral with footage of her long-range three-pointers and shots that win games and help spread the WNBA's ability to reach younger tech-savvy viewership. The rise in media. More advertising resulted from the publicity. Income for the league with more WNBA broadcast advertisers' eyes were prepared to pay more for advertisements during games. This gave a critical financial boost to the league in order to partially offset the damages it had sustained earlier. In many respects, Caitlin Clark has alone transformed the WNBA from a specialized product to a general market, a source of amusement. The fallout of the departure of Caitlin Clark was a financial crisis for the WNBA, but all of that advancement came about when Caitlin Clark collapsed, declared that she was leaving the WNBA. The league, which had been enjoying great success on her success wave, abruptly discovered itself in free fall. The effect that she departure was terrible and swift. The most on and off the court. There was a discernible impact on attendance. Games for the Indiana Fever, which had previously events that were sold out, experienced a sharp decline. Fans who had gathered to purchase tickets were no longer interested in seeing Clark play. When going to games and the once crowded Gainbridge Fieldhouse started to feel uncannily other WNBA clubs' quiet experiences. Comparable attendance drops when the Fever struck the community when Clark wasn't there, left the league star with a huge void. Ratings for power television also declined. Games involving nosedives that have previously attracted now 1 million viewers find it difficult to draw in even half as many networks that was keen to broadcast with the NBA. Games played when Clark was a member of a league started to reduce their coverage, putting games at a lower priority spots in the absence of Clark to attract viewers. The NBA's TV contract lost a lot of its worth. The league was once more having to deal with financial uncertainty. The financial ramifications went beyond TV ratings and ticket sales. Sponsors who has secured profitable contracts with the WNBA under Clark's leadership started to retreat. Without the best player in the league, the WNBA no longer appeared to be a feasible investment for numerous business partners. The league thus lost millions of dollars in additional sponsorship revenue, aggravating its financial situation. Rise in products that had coincided with stores also dried up after Clark arrived, that had found it difficult to maintain her jerseys. Unsold inventory was now in stock. Inventory, as fans had lost their motivation, can purchase NBA memorabilia from the league that has experienced a temporary financial steadiness during Clark's tenure in the WNBA. Suddenly had to deal with a very genuine Potential for a player to go bankrupt. Wages and the migration to other countries. Leagues among the most direct. The repercussions of the NBA's financial collapse has affected the player. Wages. While Caitlin Clark was employed at the league's best players had at last began to observe an increase in their salaries because of the higher revenue produced by her presence. Yet with Clark no longer there, the league's finances, many players' circumstances are getting worse. Having had their pay drastically reduced, the WNBA's salary average, which had increased somewhat throughout Clark's term, has now returned to the peak of pre-Clark levels. Participants who had been relying on the league's just acquired financial security to help their careers are now being compensated. Savings that are challenging to defend, remaining in the WNBA, which has resulted in an increasing number of players looking for higher compensation chances. Asian and European leagues abroad, especially in nations such as Spain, China, Turkey, and Russia, have long been a sanctuary for WNBA players who want to enhance their earnings through these leagues, provide much greater compensation than the WNBA, where certain players make more money just one season away from home than they do throughout several WNBA seasons. In addition to the NBA's financial difficulties are not indications that more and more gamers are thinking of quitting the league completely and sending their skills overseas. The migration of elite talent abroad leagues is generating an unsustainable cycle for the WNBA as more athletes depart the league's star power declines, which results in additional decreases in revenue, attendance, and viewership. When its best players are absent, the WNBA turns into less appealing to sponsors, fans, and broadcasters, make things more difficult for the league to make the money that it must remain afloat. The WNBA's future. Can the league continue to exist without Caitlin Clark? The WNBA is now in a crucial. In the absence of Caitlin Clark, the future of the league is unclear. Without its best player, the WNBA can still thrive? Or will the league eventually die away? According to several scholars, into obscurity. There is yet hope for the league to recover, but substantial adjustments will be necessary to its marketing and business plan. Tactics that prioritize the WNBA must locate fresh stars to fill the hole left behind when Clark leaves. Yet there is no lack of skill in the league. Currently, the player shares the same cultural. Clark's resonance with the WNBA must improve its player marketing efforts and crafting gripping stories that attract supporters as a possible tactic, perhaps to draw attention to the rivalries between groups or individual athletes, in the same way that the NBA has effectively promoted the rivalry between the Lakers and Celtics or Stephen Curry versus LeBron James. The WNBA also needs to improve the league's financial difficulties. Long depended on NBA subsidies to remain afloat, but that model has since sustainable. The WNBA must discover new sources of income, whether via improved extended sponsorships or TV deals. Higher sales of item one. One possible avenue for expansion is global expansion of women's. The popularity of basketball is rising worldwide, and the WNBA might examine possibilities for playing exhibition games abroad or collaborate with foreign leagues to expand its worldwide presence. And more area in which the WNBA could enhance its online visibility. While highlights of Caitlin Clark went viral on social networking while she was in the WNBA league, has been sluggish to completely invest to embrace the digital age. More in the creation of social media marketing, collaborating and producing interesting web content. Influencers could help the league draw in a younger, tech-savvy audience that the NBA has effectively utilized. Online resources such as YouTube and Instagram, as well as TikTok, to expand its following, and the WNBA might profit from a comparable. Finally, the WNBA needs to deal with The players sell IIE's problem if the league hopes to keep its best players. Must figure out how to provide players a competitive pay, which may include getting better TV deals through negotiation, more profitable sponsorships, or even investigating revenue-sharing arrangements with the NBA, but without a substantial player pay increases the exodus of talent to leagues abroad will continuing to undermine the WNBA's appeal to both sponsors and fans. It will be crucial in the next years since Caitlin Clark left the WNBA, the league in a crisis situation, but with the WNBA could still make the right moves. If it will survive or not recover, her remains are not visible, but there is no doubt that the league cannot be able to afford to pause. The future of professional basketball for women continues to exist. The WNBA and the balance need to take action swiftly if it wants to guarantee its position in the realm of sports.